Welcome to another edition of ALN Thursday at 3. This is a series of web presentations prior to next week's Global Asset Management Summit, Repeatable Success Stories. And Christina Benty, President of Strategic Leadership Solutions, will be our co-facilitator with Wendy McPate, the chair of the Asset Management Council. And when I first was introduced to Christina through Chris Silky. Thank you very much, Chris. It took me about 2 minutes to realize that it would greatly benefit the Asset Leadership Network to be able to bring Christina to be an MC, use her experience as a two-time council member and a two-time mayor of Golden, British Columbia, and a full-time asset management enthusiast, evangelist, passionate person to really help us understand why leaders need to be driving asset management initiatives. And it doesn't hurt that she got her master's in leadership. I mean, I can't be effusive enough about how perfect a fit she is for the Asset Leadership Network. And anyone in the DC area who can take an hour out of their day on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday next week really will benefit from coming and seeing her perspective on 3 days of wonderful programming. But before we start talking with Christina, I want to dearly thank our patron members, Mantech, Onuma, and ABS Quality Evaluations, and all of our members, which are growing because of this event. And those of you who are not on this screen, I apologize. We're going to have you represented next week at the summit, which will have 2 days at the government of the District of Columbia's Chief Financial Officers Conference Center. And it's going to be really wonderful. And the Chief Financial Officer is going to be giving the keynote, and his team, who are global leaders, are going to be there to share best practices around the world. And we also just got notice today that a minister of the Australian embassy is going to come to the event and the reception on the 27th. And I talked with Victoria Hartkey, who is Director of Planning and Real Estate for Department of State Overseas Bureau Buildings Operations. And she was so enthusiastic for it that the next day, 5 people from state signed up. So thank you, Victoria. I appreciate that plug. And the AI portfolio manager for my congressman, Mike Quigley, is going to welcome us at the Rayburn House Office Building on April 29th for the AI and Federal Asset Management Day of our program. So things just keep on lining up better and better. And one thing that I want to share is how wonderful it was to introduce Christina Benty. Please sign in and introduce her in a web meeting to Wendy McPate, who within 15 minutes invited Christina to come over to Australia and keynote one of their conferences that she doesn't even know which conference it is, but she knows she wants Christina to come over. So the Global Asset Management Summit, Repeatable Success Stories, is already sharing best practices around the world. We're a success. We haven't even started the program. Thank you so much for joining us today and coming to the US next week, Christina.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. I am so excited about next week. It's shaping up to be a pretty fantastic week. So I'm really looking forward to meeting everyone. I love the concept of repeatable success stories, and the key word there being, well, they're all keywords, right? Repeatable, success, and stories. Because our brains love stories and love storytelling. So I'm very excited about it. Thank you,
And the
Michael.
storytelling is what's necessary to build the culture. And you and Wendy quickly got to it's all about the culture. And
Yeah.
it took us a long time to realize that the Asset Leadership Network is a pretty good name because this asset management stuff is pretty easy, except for the people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the way you get people to come along is to have the leaders tell the stories that encourage people to come along. And at DC government, the story was you don't get any money if you don't do asset management. So that was a pretty straightforward story. But there's also stories of, hey, this worked for me. It could help you solve a problem that seems impossible to solve because that's what we're facing as one people of the world, right? And the recent, was it Artemis? I already forget the name of the second Apollo, the moon travel showed us that we're just one world, and asset management is needed for the one problem that is the world, and professionals can reach out across imaginary lines on the globe in ways that governments who have defined these imaginary lines on the globe operate. So it's really up to us, professional around the world, to share these. And that's why I'm so happy that DC government is supporting these efforts and that their relationship with 14 sister cities is going to help us have a mechanism for doing the information distribution that associations have always done this, but we need a resurgence, a surge, a new way of saying, hey, everybody's already worn clothes, but hey, this style of clothes is neat. You got to start, buttoning from the left or whatever it is, So you are doing something that is very interesting in terms of the very big picture of managing assets, the intangible assets of the vote. And in a democracy or a republic or however you want to call it, where people are voting to have their interests represented, can you tell us a little bit about your civility project?
Sure. So I am going to be telling a story, a repeatable success story. While I'm there, I'm going to be talking about a story of a small community and how we transformed the narrative in the community using asset management principles. So it's really around the power of community, the power of conversations, the power of shifting the narrative, of bringing people together. So I'm going to be telling that story when I'm there about the city of Greenwood and our management project and our community engagement project, and we ended up winning an award for community engagement and leadership on asset management. So that's the story that I'm going to be sharing. But I'm also right now I'm working with the provincial government of BC on respectful conduct. So building legislation around respectful conduct. And it's interesting because what I have been thinking about is, legislation is it's the words, it's the technical aspects of respectful conduct, it's the scaffolding. But what I'm really interested in is the guts. So it's like, how do we operationalize respectful conduct so that we're all rowing in the same direction? Because the goal is good governance, the goal is good sound asset management practices, the goal is leadership. And so the project that I'm doing is really focusing on the both and. Right, the technical aspects. You've got to have the policies in place. You have to have good, sound practices, but then you need to embed them into organizational culture. So that's the part that I'm really, really focused on. How do we take this legislation and operationalize it into into organizational behavior, into the ethos of our organization, so that it has, so that it, that people see the value of that. And to me, those are the same principles as asset management. It was, you'll kind of get a chuckle out of this. So I was thinking about our conversation, that we were going to be having a conversation today, and as you said earlier, I jokingly call myself an asset management evangelist, and I can turn
It's no joke.
yeah. I can turn any conversation into one about asset management. And I was at the gym this morning and thinking about, actually, everything in life is about asset management, because I was managing, my own asset.
Yes. We'll say biceps.
Yep. Well, no, doing some squats. Doing some squats and some leg presses, and right, and what that really, those same principles, like everything is about managing assets, whether it's the asset of our physicality and our body, but our homes, our communities, all of the assets that provide services that actually lead to a civil society, need leadership, and they need some attention and some curiosity. How do we make decisions so that we're looking at life through the long-term lens, right? And so it doesn't actually matter. The principles are transferable across the spectrum. So next week we're going to have a lot of those repeatable success stories are going to be talking about the technical aspects. And what I'm excited about is really contextualizing those and bringing in that leadership piece, that the people piece, the importance of remembering that it all has to be encompassed in the why. What's the purpose? What's the purpose of managing assets? The purpose of managing assets is
right. The purpose of a city is to make life easier for its citizens, and to do that, they need water. They need to get rid of waste. They need electricity. They need roads and emergency services, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Like all the things that are happening on our behalf that are unbeknownst to us, that we don't pay attention to. And the part of leadership is calling people to pay attention to it in ways that leads to good decision making. So some of those, at least my repeatable success story, is really going to be about engaging the community that I was working with, engaging folks in the community and building their capacity to better understand. And that was through storytelling and through images and inviting curiosity. And here's what I think is so key, especially for leaders, is to remember that all the people that they are serving are kind of all want the same things. We all want clean, clear, safe drinking water, right? We all want to be able to flush our toilets and have it disappear. We want to be able to, I'm planning on getting, driving to the airport and getting on an airplane and arriving safely. And that depends on the asset management of the the entire
the roads,
process.
the airport, the planes, the ways, everything. Yep.
Yeah, so many things are working on our behalf, and so embedding the principles into our thinking and helping people see that that there's so many things that are actually working on their behalf. So to me, asset management is really that multi-generational type of thinking, and it's about building that organizational ethos so that we remember the why.
Before you get too far away from building in the principles, I want to tie that to the breakthrough development that ALN members working with Linux Foundation members and the National Institute of Standards and Technology and the American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, Air Conditioning Engineers in creating a knowledge graph database for the Portland, Oregon PAE building, because what the knowledge graph database does is require a subject, a predicate, and an object for every entry. And that gives 3 points of contact, which then creates a three-dimensional grid instead of an XY axis. And that just one more dimension adds a richness that allows us to embed principles into a knowledge graph model. So it's not just where is the light? Is the light on? Is the light off? It's why is the light there? I mean, that's a little too oversimplistic, but we can now embed the intangible assets of asset management principles and have it work. And this takes asset management to a whole new realm. And it's kind of being introduced at this event next week. So, not to toot our horn too much, but I think this is really important. And for those of you who aren't in the DC area, it's too late to fly in, but please reach out, tell your DC area friends to sign up. There's no cost. If you want to, you can donate to cover food and beverages, but you don't even have to do that. And you don't have to stay for a full day. You can just come for an afternoon or one session, but come and meet Christina. That's the main thing.
I'm very relational, so I love meeting people. So I'm very much looking forward to, the experience and to the conversations. And I think you raised a really important point. There's going to be a lot of great information that's shared in those, in the storytelling, but it's also an opportunity for networking, for talking about, sharing challenges, but also sharing opportunities, embedding conversations around what are the resources, what is the innovation that you can take away and bring back to your community.
Mhm.
So I think there's going to be so many opportunities for some great conversations, a lot of information and inspiration and tools for folks to be able to avail themselves of. So,
Yes. So, another thing that's really exciting that has developed recently is interest from relatively young people. The
yeah.
people who are in their late 20s think they're mature and older now because they're comparing themselves to their younger self. But, me with enough gray hair to consider someone in their 30s to be young, there's interest from young people. We've got interns who are coming, and we're going to give voice to the young people because in one of these preview web programs, we had Daniel Caldwell, who works for Skycentrics and just graduated from Berkeley a year or two ago. And he presented on the tech of that's in the Linux Foundation based Skycentric Skybox that's in PAE building. And that's his area of expertise. But after he was done with this tech, I said, "So what do you think about what's going on in the building industry?" And his comment was, "I didn't realize how far behind the times the building industry was compared to every other industry." And that's real important commentary because those of us who have been around and seen smart buildings and smart cities for years think that we have smart buildings and smart cities. And we've got components of smart cities. I love knowing when the bus is coming. That really helps me, especially in the winter. I love being on the train station and knowing that I've only got to wait 2 minutes. I can do an email, or I've only got 1 minute. I can only send a text. That's how busy I am. It's like I got to plan these things. So that's smart, but our buildings are not. And it's good to have the input of the young people. And let's see what Chris Silkey, who got you involved in the asset leadership network. It's fitting that younger people get interested. Intergenerational equity is a core value add of good asset management. And couldn't agree with you more there, Chris. Oh, and Chris, Kimono Numa is going to be up in Portland to go to the PAE building. So please get in touch with me. I would like you to meet Kimono Numa and then also see the PAE building. And we talk about these physical assets and how AI can help us with manned built infrastructure. Well, Kimono Numa can manage natural assets. He's got a way to populate a park with different species of trees that grow branches in different locations over the time span of what the actual tree would be growing. So you can kind of like start calculating shade in 5 years and things like that. So Chris is involved in parks and recreation, and I want to make sure they get together in person. And thank you, Kimon, for connecting. We're networking on the fly here.
Well,
So
it's an example of partnering with nature, right? Like utilizing our natural assets to, again, to provide a service, and not just talking about the built environment, but our natural environment. And I love that there's going to be young folks there, and younger generation, because we have a lot to learn from them. They are inheriting. They're inheriting many of these challenges that we face around asset management, and I think that it's so key to learn from them and to ask them what is important to them, right?
yes, involve all relevant parties. It's
Yeah.
spelled out in good asset management practices. We're just saying the world is one asset. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to
Mm-hmm.
apply this around the world. And another thing, and I've got to record this so that my cousin knows. My cousin Nathaniel Sanders, who is a district attorney for Salt Lake City, and I've mentioned before, has started Utah for Ukraine and has gone to Poland 5 or 6 times, rented a car, got medical supplies, driven them across the border to field hospitals to help the Ukraine defend itself against the unjust insurgents from Russia. And they were lobbying when I was in DC earlier this week, and I got to meet Nathaniel, and I got to meet some of his, more than 500 people who are crawling all over Capitol Hill earlier this week. And there's connections between us because in 2022, we did do a web program on how to prepare for reconstructing the assets in Ukraine when that inevitably is necessary, because usually bad actors get involved and they say, yeah, we'll build you a bridge, but now there's a $20 toll every time you cross the bridge. It's like, no, we want you to help us build a bridge and not make money off of our misfortune. So I met with people who say, yes, we need to start thinking of that. So already we're planning for future initiatives that all of you can be involved in. So please keep in touch and come up with ideas of the areas that you're interested in that we can support you. So there is that element of this also. And I was really happy when you were saying before about, maintaining your personal assets of your muscles and bone structure and all that stuff, because Jack Kelly, one of our board members, and he was with the Office of Management and Budget for the White House for 36 years. When he found out about ISO 55000, said, oh, this isn't a band-aid, this is a lifestyle change. And I think that's perfect analogy that fits in with what you were saying about exercising your own personal assets. So
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you've ever read anything from Jim Rohn, but he had this quote, and I love it, and I've used it before. He said, "You'll suffer one of two disciplines, or sorry, what? Yeah, the you'll suffer the discipline of, or you'll suffer for discipline or for regret, right? It's
Ah,
and we are right now suffering, at least in our country, with the state of our assets. The and then the I know what it is. Sorry, it is you'll suffer one of two pains: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. That's the quote I'm looking for
excellent.
that I couldn't remember. And we are suffering the pain of regret. We've built all of our assets, and we've practice, build, and forget. And as those assets, similar to our physicality, if you don't practice that pain of discipline, that incremental, all of those things that help us look after
Slowly
ourselves.
working at it. Yeah.
Yep. Then we suffer the pain of regret. And in many ways, we're suffering the pain of regret because we have built all these assets and we have largely ignored them. And so the conversation around asset management, like I never even heard the term until I was on council, and I actually learned from the folks from Australia about the concepts of asset management, and it was just like, well, duh, this makes so much sense. Why haven't we been talking about this? Why aren't we having this conversation? And so the very fact, I would say, in the last decade or so, we're finally having the conversations around our assets, the state of our assets, and looking at how do we manage those risks, and how do we ensure that we're looking after, again, the assets for intergenerational equity.
So very uh, good that you bring that up, because part of the reason why we're having this global asset management summit in the US is because I don't think we're even starting to feel the pain of regret in the United States yet. I think our arrogance is still keeping us from regretting the level of benefits that we can have if we exercise the pain of discipline. And I wanted Wendy to come from Australia and say things like, our zoos do asset management, so that the Asset Leadership Network embarrasses the United States into taking action to make this an important thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think people in the United States, the majority of people don't even know what asset management is, let alone at the zoos. Although they do it, they shovel the
Yeah.
shit. I mean, that is asset management. They're doing things, but the thing about this movement of asset management is a new mindset that can introduce additional benefits to what has been done since before the pyramids.
Yeah, and going back to that, I don't think we're suffering the pain of regret. Um, I doubt it. I bet if you talk to frontline staff and ask them, how much time do you spend doing reactive maintenance versus proactive maintenance? It's a question I always ask when I go into an organization with the public works staff, because I work mainly with local governments. But the frontline staff, they know, they're the ones that are dealing with
Okay.
the pain of regret, and so ideally, what storytelling does, and talking about those repeatable success stories, is it starts to build an ethos beyond just that, like, everybody has a contribution to make in terms of ensuring that asset management is part of the organization, just part of the culture, just the way we do business. And that's the intention, largely, is bringing it in as a bringing, because we've always informally looked after assets, right? But the idea around asset management principles is really, how do we do this in such a way that that it just becomes the way we do business, and it formalizes it, systematizes it, and then humanizes it. So
Well, thank you so much for joining us and adding a human element to this and a leadership element to this. You corrected me, but that there is plenty of regret out there is the exact reason why you are the co-facilitator with Wendy. And I couldn't be happier. It's harder. It's not harder. I, I wanted to have this happen sooner, but I'm just so happy that it is happening. And thank you for taking time a week out of your life to come down and help spread the good word about asset management and a global approach to information distribution, best practice sharing. So thank
Excellent.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone. I know who the attendees are. You're all great supporters. Really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing those of you who will be there and hope that we can maybe have one of these quarterly instead of, well, let's start every 6 months first, and then we'll get to quarterly so that I can see more of you together. So thank you all, and see you live from Capitol Hill next week. I'm not sure where I'm going to set up my computer and stuff, but it's just going to be me and whoever I can get to sit behind me, and we'll be effusive about what a great week it is. All right, bye for now. I'm just saying, Marty, I'll get you the email address for Kimon. All right, bye for now.